tardy unexcused and being dismissed from school as being disqualifying events for either extracurricular activities or athletics. I think there are policies in place to deal with those and to include, in addition to those sanctions, the disqualification from activities or athletics is unnecessary and it doesn't make sense to me. The coach obviously can deal with those types of things in the way the coach chooses to deal with them. I absolutely have a problem with both extracurricular activities and athletics. For weekend or holiday activities, this includes the school day prior to the activity. I have no idea why that's in place. I voted against the high school handbook every year for
Right, you should point out that these two have been, Mr. Bowers did not add these. These have been in the handbook.
These have been in the handbook, and yeah, they have.
Some of them I'm not responsible for. I mean,
but even though he's probably supports them.
And I don't take anything here personally.
But I have a huge problem with that. For the life of me, I cannot understand why if a kid's absent from school on Friday because they're sick, they can't play participate on a Saturday, Sunday, or possibly a Monday holiday. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. So that's a major problem that I have. I think that in dealing with, and I know Cliff's tried to address this, and I appreciate the fact that he's trying to get some consistency into the way the coaches are going to apply this penalty. I think that if you're going to allow them to participate in practices, which is recommended by the MIAA, but also in scrimmages, and I think scrimmage is nothing more than a practice. A scrimmage can take place between participants of their own team. It can take place between participants of one high school and another high school, but they're essentially practices, they're not games. So I think that scrimmages, and I believe the MIA recommends scrimmages as well as practices, they'd be allowed to participate for rehabilitative purposes.
Is that confirmed? Can we get a confirmation of that, Dr. Mandel?
Scrimmages? Yes.
Scrimmages are not counted.
No, they're not correct.
In addition to that, you have to be very careful with the words league games. It's confusing because there are games that are regular season scheduled games that aren't league games. I mean, every team has 2, 3, 4, 5 games.
Regular season games is what I should say.
Regular season games. So that's just
scrimmages.
I have a problem with scrimmages.
Right. But instead of league games, you say regular season games because they play a lot of games during the year that aren't league games. They're out of league.
So it's a semantics thing, but I'm not in favor of the must participate in a chemical dependency or similar treatment or educational program. I would leave it up to whoever's qualified to do it at the school, whether it's a school nurse or guidance department, to do an evaluation and recommend if they believe necessary an alcohol education program. But I think for a first offense to participate in a chemical dependency or treatment program is beyond what is warranted here. So I'd recommend an evaluation or even a class of some kind. I also I have real problems with this guilt by association. I agree with Cliff 100%. And I'm speaking of somebody that has a child currently participating in athletics and who's a junior at the high school and having 2 prior sons that went through this, that absolutely positively that it should be recommended that if they're present where there is alcohol being consumed, that the wise thing to do would be to leave. But to be guilty by association, I cannot. It's unacceptable to me. And I just want to clarify something. The issues that we had last year about the occurrence that took place during the summer, Cliff's right. The reason that there was no sanctions applied is because at that point, activities during the summer were not a sanctionable offense. However, I just want to point out that I had serious, and I think other members of the committee did, serious evidentiary problems with that as well. That wasn't the only issue. It was the fact that they took place during the summer. There were a lot of questions as to what the evidence was that these kids were actually in violation of the policy. I do not want to include the summer period. I want to stay consistent with the MIAA. The MIAA recommends that it's from the first day of school to the last day of school, and that's the position I would take in this. And finally, as far as the operation of a motor vehicle, there are any number of sanctions that apply for anybody that's operating a motor vehicle while they're consuming alcohol. And I think those sanctions have to be dealt with. I don't think there should be an additional sanction imparted on the student athlete, because there are a multitude of situations where somebody could have used alcohol and not be impaired and not be arrested for driving under, but they're still going to end up with the sanction that you're recommending here. So Those are my positions on that. I haven't voted, I don't think, for the high school handbook. I might have voted for it last year just because I was tired that night.
No.
But for the
No,
most
you
part,
didn't.
I haven't voted for it, and then I'm really, some of these things really bother the hell out of me, to be honest with you. So that's my position on it.
I've got a few comments, kind of carrying over with Jerry. Actually, mine are more questions than comments. I guess I'll address them to, first one to Dr. Mambo, where I'm kind of weighing this entire year versus the school year issue, but I'm just wondering, can we, what are the legality issues? Do we have any legality issues in terms of what our jurisdiction is over the summer?
I asked Nancy McGuire about that after Cliff and I spoke, just to see what the, for lack of a better word, jurisdictional boundaries were. And basically, the law is silent on it. There's been no case law. She is aware that there are some districts that have extended their policies throughout the year, but no one's challenged them. So, absent of a challenge, there's nothing that says we can't do it. She does not. It was a very quick phone conversation, and she would like to research it. If the committee wants, she'll research it more thoroughly and give you her opinion on it.
I think I might like that. I mean, I can ask the committee, because I go back and forth on this. I think it's foolish. It's almost like we say, well, for 9 months or 10 months you can't do anything wrong. For 2 months you can, and we can't do anything to you. To me, I sometimes read the policy that way, and I feel that if a student is caught doing something illegal during the summer, it should have the same consequences as if they're caught during the school year. So I don't know what the committees if they'd like Nancy our attorney to look into this and just get a legal reading on it. I mean, what do you?
I would appreciate that.
Yeah, I think
I'm actually in Mr. Bauer's corner with respect to the full year, but there's something about it makes me uncomfortable, because it feels like, well, they're not enrolled as
Right.
students yet, but I understand the need to, when you participate in extracurricular and sports, that there is that higher level of character that people expect from that student athlete, and I think that's what athletics in general is about, striving for success and achievement, and one success is to promote, freedom from these chemicals, and that's very important. But there's something that makes me a little uneasy, and the fact that there's absence of case law does not make me feel any more comfortable with it. So,
Well, I'd also like to know how many districts are
right.
doing have a full year program.
If it's 5, I'm not totally in favor of exceeding the MIAA in this case. I mean, there is a reason why this matters, and I remember our discussion about the incident that precipitated this discussion, but I'm not comfortable with it entirely yet.
And the MIA is the governing jurisdiction for all
Athletics, and not
athletics,
extracurricular.
all athletics, yeah.
Right.
That doesn't mean we can't exceed it.
Correct.
No, but I think it just, we have the time, we should look into it and just be sure that we are approaching this in the right way. And the rationale behind it, I agree with, particularly because I think sports is like National Honor Society. It just feels that way, that you should promote a higher standard, because it's a privilege to participate in sports. And you also, it's a team effort, so you want to provide an example for your team. But again, I just feel slightly uneasy about it, and would prefer, like Mel, an opinion.
2 other questions I have, and then a couple of comments. The MIAA never requires education or treatment programs. What the MIAA does is, after the second or subsequent violations, they say if you on your own go to a treatment or education program, then you can reduce your penalty from 60% of the events to 40% of the events. My question is, can we legally require students to undergo programs that are going to cost them money in order to get back onto the sports team or extracurricular activity? Again,
I don't know the legalities of that. I mean, I would think that you could run into some difficulties trying to require a student, and I don't like the use of the word treatment, because treatment
Well, right,
seems to.
education.
Look, even in the court system, when somebody goes in the court system, they have an issue, crime related to alcohol or drugs. Before the court orders treatment, in 90% of the cases, they order an evaluation. Sit down with somebody, that's trained professional, determine whether or not you need treatment, or whether or not you need to just understand that, this is a violation of the policy of the law, so.
And so what you had said, and maybe that, in that we, and I don't know if I would do it after the first violation, but recommend an evaluation of the student by a professional.
Yeah.
And it may be somebody within the district, as you said.
And to make a distinction as to whether or not that person needs to attend a class, or whether the person needs additional treatment before they can come back and participate again. And again, I'm not even sure the legality of that, but.
Well, the third question I have, and I guess it's less of a legal question, and again, maybe for Jerry, since you're an attorney, you can help out here. The whole issue of underage, students under drinking age, driving an automobile, I won't say under the influence of alcohol or drugs, but having used alcohol or drugs, how far can we do anything we want there? In other words, Cliff suggesting that be, of course, a student arrested. I don't know if it's arrested or would they have to be convicted.
And again, from the language.
The information's coming to us.
Right.
That they are
Which is consistent with the way we get other
arrested
okay,
or
whatever. Same way
So
we
we
get it
don't
now.
have to decide whether they were or weren't.
Right. Same way we get
It's
it now.
that they are.
Okay.
I mean, I think we could probably implement that. Again, I have a problem with it, as I said before, anybody that's arrested or charged or brought to court for operating a motor vehicle while consuming alcohol, while having consumed alcohol, has got to pay the price in the court system as well. And the fact of the matter is they're going to receive a sanction under our policy or under the MIA policy. I'm not sure. I think it seems arbitrary and somewhat capricious to turn around and say, well, okay, they were involved driving a car. The fact that they're driving a car and they consumed alcohol doesn't mean they're impaired. Doesn't mean they violated the law. It means they've consumed alcohol in violation of our policy.
They did some alcohol underage, so
Right.
they did violate the law.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as the driving aspect of it, they violated the law if they consumed alcohol at all.
Period.
I'm saying the distinction of driving a motor vehicle, if you've consumed alcohol, you don't have to have committed a criminal offense regarding the driving of the motor vehicle. That's what I'm saying.
The intent here is to ring a loud chime so that they catch on.
But somebody has to show me,
This is the
Cliff,
big
at some
problem.
point, that if the penalty were expulsion and execution, does that necessarily get you the end result? I mean, this goes on all over the world. Different countries, you cut off an arm or they execute you in Saudi Arabia for driving drunk.
Right.
The issue becomes, are these sanctions arbitrary, and do they produce the result that we're seeking by imposing these types of penalties? Or are we trying to impose penalties basically as a punishment? Not as something that's going to be a deterrent, but as a punishment. And in that case, I think the punishment should fit the crime.
All of the things we're talking about here are illegal. So now we just have to come up with some sort of a way of dealing with the illegal things.
But I'm just saying, at what point do you say that the punishment that we're going to give out is a deterrent? I don't know where that is. I know that the punishment, I judge the punishment as something that fits the crime. Is the punishment fair? Is it reasonable? Is it a deterrent? I don't know. I've never felt it is. I do feel education is the deterrent to these types of risky behaviors as opposed to the punishment, to be honest with you.
I look on my own experiences for guidance in situations like this. And one of the things that I've always enjoyed is the lead foot. I have great joy in driving very fast. I really enjoyed it. And then at one point along the way, I concluded that it was going to be very, very expensive and inconvenient if I got stopped doing 130, 140 miles an hour. And it suddenly rang a bell that the punishment was going to be more than the enjoyment.
But that's already
Now,
here.
that's a subjective thing, and it varies from person to person.
But there's already a punishment here. You're acting as if there's no punishment here already in place. There is a punishment in place for this type of
punishment-
activity.